I mentioned that I was getting my parents a really wonderful Christmas gift. Well, they got me an even better Christmas gift this year. It's this quilt, and it might not look like much, right? It's a little frayed around the edges, but it's beautiful in its own way. You see, this quilt was sewn for me by my grandmother. Every stitch poured over, every scrap of fabric prayed into. Every bit of this quilt had me in it. and I had this quilt since I was a little kid, maybe 6 or 7. And my grandmother made one of these quilts for each of us grandkids, and this one was mine. But I had left it at my childhood home, and it had lived into a different purpose. It had wrapped up my mother because it was her favorite blanket. So every time we would visit them in California, I would say, gosh, I miss that blanket. When can I take it home again? And maybe it was the gift card that finally convinced her to bring this blanket finally home this Christmas to me, where it can be my favorite blanket again. You see, when we use this word, the mending of creation, when we understand that God is mending us and mending everything that exists, it's like God is like my grandmother, a beautiful seamstress sewing individual pieces of fabric with tiny little bits of thread, pouring over every single stitch, every single moment. These are our lives, the quilts, our stories, our moments, our histories. This is us, and God is holding us about every single bit. We're a little bit like the picture on the left at times, and this blanket definitely shows its wear. It's got bits where there are holes starting to appear. It's got little frayed edges where one dog or another got a little too overzealous over time. And I think at times we are that way too. Sometimes frayed at the edges, sometimes a little stressed out about what's going on. We've got bruises, we've got scrapes, we've got holes that need stitching. But God is mending creation, stitching us whole, tying us together bit by bit, string by string. So if we are making room for restoration, maybe it starts with the little threads of our lives, with the places that we don't like to talk about too much, with the places that sting a little bit. Maybe it starts right there, because that's the work that God is doing, restoring us, and by restoring each and every one of us, restoring all of creation. At the end of the book of Revelation, the passage that Pastor Sarah read so beautifully, we are shown this vision of God. It says that John, the writer of Revelation, sees coming out of heaven this beautiful city, the throne of God, descending from that 3-tiered universe above the sky down to be among us. But God doesn't just snap and make everything better. If you read that passage carefully, what God does is so tender and intimate and loving. God wipes away every tear from our eyes. And God makes all things new. I had a friend who noticed that it's not that God makes all new things. God doesn't buy us a new blanket. God carefully stitches us, holds us close, and restores us and restores all of creation in the process. This is the work of God, and we get to be part of it. So may you this week make a little bit of space, a little bit of room for God to tie the threads of your story, the little frayed edges, the untucked corners, and may God stitch them and make them whole.